Marriage at any time is tough because you can't just go by your feelings, just quit it or leave it. Because marriage is about a commitment. It's about a choice. It's about, you gotta fight for the one you're married to. You gotta fight for your spouse and fight to save your spouse sometimes. And they've gotta save you. You've gotta, it's a give and a take. But it's work. It's tough anytime. But especially in the zombie apocalypse. Of course, that's what I always think about. Nowadays, I've been thinking about a lot. Just doomsday in general. Because I don't know if zombie apocalypse is going to really happen. But it might. So I want to look at some married couples from the zombie apocalypse. And actually do a reflection on that. Reflect on The Walking Dead and Z Nation. Because they both have couples. Not all married couples. Not a lot of married couples, actually. Now, starting with The Walking Dead, of course, there are only two married couples that really spring to mind. Lori and Rick, and Glenn and Maggie. Okay, I'll talk about both of those because, okay, Rick and Lori, I mean, they were having problems before the ZA, so it was especially tough to work through that. But there could be some forgiveness, and Rick was on the verge of really forgiving for getting past it. There was one time in the prison, I remember in particular, on the catwalk on the outside, he had just had a bloody, he was, that they cleared out, I don't know, the block for the prisoners, I think is what he did that day, because he came out and he was like all sweaty and bloody, and he just walked up. He was making an effort. He was stepping forward. And Lori was like, oh, I thought you were going to talk about us. And yeah, that's not exactly, but I thought you came here to talk about us. Guys don't just sit and talk. But she should have realized he's making a big step just by coming out there. And, saying thank you for being there. And patting her on the shoulder. And that's a big deal. He was making an effort. And she was just kind of dismissing the fact that he had been working hard all day. All that he had done. And he still is doing for his family. But up to that point, she should have known that he'd done a lot of hard work just for her and the family. And it was like she was dismissing that. It was treating it like it didn't matter. That's how I was seeing it. I was like, come on, can't she just get up? She made a big error. Adultery is a big error. But it's something that can be forgiven and gotten past. And Rick was getting past it. He'd already totally accepted the daughter that he knew. He knew biologically that Judith was not his daughter. But that didn't make her any more his daughter. He knew that biologically Judith, he knew. And he forgave that. And Lori almost didn't acknowledge that he'd done so much that he'd forgiven. And then, I don't like Lori. Didn't like Lori. That marriage, I think it didn't work because of her. I think because they were on the road to reconciliation. Okay. Before I go too rambly on that, the other marriage from The Walking Dead that really stands out, of course, is Glenn and Maggie. If not for the ZA, they probably never would have met. There might have been a slight chance that she'd be in a big city to meet him, but probably not. They probably never would have met. And if they did meet, would they ever have gotten together? Doubtful. Really doubtful, because just circumstances being what they were. They got together, and maybe initially, because most relationships are initially just lust, just feelings. that might be initially what they're based on, but it becomes more than that, because it becomes love. Lust is what feels good. It's, you know, it's emotional. It's here and gone. You can't form a relationship on lust. I mean, it won't last. It won't sustain. So theirs turned into true love. And the true love between the two is not any more apparent than when they were separated after the prison on the road to Terminus. They were both so driven to see the other. They became leaders. I mean, boom. Glenn took over. He took the reins from Abraham. And, I mean, standing up to a guy that's 6 inches taller than you and probably outweighs you by 50 or 60 pounds. I mean, he did that. Stood up to Abraham. And Maggie was willing to go on by herself. And she did. Which is kind of... It's not very smart to go off by herself. But it's a choice she made. And it's based on the commitment and the loyalty, and she's going to find her husband. And they did, and they reunited, and that was just so... It was touching to me that when they got together, and I just love that. What other married couples are in Walking Dead? Ed and Carol. Glad Ed. If he had not been killed, she would not have become the badass that she really was. I mean, that she is. I mean, that it changed her. Okay, I mentioned I was going to talk about Z Nation also. There are no married couples on that TV show. But there's the relationship between Addy and Mack. That's the kind of relationship they say, if it's based on emotion, feelings like that, don't have it. Because it's hard. I mean, especially when you're fighting for your life. Because you end up fighting with each other and your emotions, and it's crazy. I don't have much to say about Z Nation. It's really fun. It's a fun show. Not a lot of drama. And marriage has a lot of drama.